Hi everyone, for our vlog today we'll be talking about the Unreal Liquid Blush from Hourglass. They are relatively new into the market and I'm so glad that I'm finally able to try them today. Now I've had these for a few weeks now, but I was not able to play with them, mainly because there was a huge storm when these arrived and I could not record anything because the rain was just, drowning every single audio that I was going to make because the rains were very strong. And I was also leaving for Bali at that time, and mind you, it didn't stop raining even up until the day that I actually left for Bali. So anywho, but there's really nothing that I can do at that time, but I'm just so glad that finally we'll be playing with these today. Okay, so for our video we'll be doing some swatches and a try on to see how these will actually work for my makeup sentiments. Okay, so I have 3 of the 7 shades with me. I have the color Vision, which is described to be a true rose. This is the color Moment, which is described to be a warm peach beige. And Imagine, which is described to be a rich terracotta. Now, when I first got these, there was actually a pamphlet that came along with it with instructions on how you will actually use the packaging, which is actually great. But I think at this point, you guys already know that you will need to shake the product first, and then when you're ready to use it, you're going to press the back of the packaging here so that you're going to eject the product and you'll get the right amount of blush that you need for your face. Okay, so let's watch these now one by one and let's see how it looks like on my arm. So I'm giving each of the colors a really good shake because this has been sitting on my office table here for a few weeks, and I might be scared that there might be some separation because after all, the way that these blushes are described on the Hourglass website is that it has skincare ingredients in it, like upcycled white lupine seed extract and hyaluronic acid. So we just really need to shake this. Now, while I'm doing this, I do have to say that I'm still a little bit on the fence with a lot of these products that have skincare ingredients in them because I'm not sure on how effective they are going to be on the face because after all, when we're doing our makeup already, we're already doing our skincare routine before applying the makeup. So I don't know on how effective it is when it's actually diluted in formulas like these. One thing, by the way, I do have to say, if it has any active ingredients, I hope that it's more geared towards preserving the product because I can see here at the base of the packaging that you can use this for 12 months. So truthfully, for the price that I paid for each of these blushes, I wish that they would last at least 24 months because to me that's more important, longevity of a product, than let's say skincare ingredients, because I already have my skincare on. Alright, so let's swatch these now on my arm. Now I do have to say that the packaging is actually quite elegant. I love the pop of gold here on the top, on the cap, and on the base of the product, and it's actually a dial cap, so at least it doesn't pop off when it's getting worked around in your bag or wherever you're keeping it. Okay, so let me put a drop here. Very nice. Okay, the next color. Alright, and the last color here. Now I do have to say, I initially thought that I was going to really push hard on the button here at the base of the packaging to eject the product. So you just have to be very careful on the pressure that you exert, because I think if you exert a lot of pressure, you will eject more product from the packaging, and that leads to a lot of product wastage. Okay, right, so let's swatch all the colors now one by one here on my arm. Okay, so I can feel right now that it's actually very serumy, very liquidy. And if I'm just tapping it with my finger, it actually blends out quite nicely. Nice color payoff, I have to say. And I think you can shear this out. So if you only need a little bit, yeah, so you can share it out. See, so if you just want to use a hint of color, you don't want a nice pop of color in your cheeks, you just have to apply a very minute amount of color on your cheeks. Okay, and ooh, what a lovely color. Fantastic, look at that, very pretty. Alright, so these are the colors swatched on my arm. This is Moment, this is Vision, and this is Imagine. So we have one orangey based color here, we have one pink tone blush, and we have one red tone blush. Now, in terms of dry down, I think you have a lot of playtime with this because I could see with the formula that it doesn't really dry down so fast. So it, I think, remains true to the fact that it says it's going to be hydrating. If you're someone who has dry skin, this would be very good for you. And of course, they don't have any fragrance on them, so if you're sensitive to fragrance, this is good for you as well. All right, and because of the ingredients here, wherein it has hyaluronic acid, it can add a very nice natural glow into your cheeks without even the need to use some highlight. Okay, so I'm very excited to try these out now on my cheeks. So what I'm gonna do is, on my face, half of it is gonna be free of makeup, and the other half of my face is gonna have makeup, so that we guys can see how the colors will actually look on regular skin and on skin with makeup. So everything that I'm using on my face is going to be listed down on my description box, including all of the skincare that I'm going to be using, okay? But for my foundation today, I'm going to be using my Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation, and this is in the color Cashew. And the reason why I'm using a deeper shade for me right now is because I got a little tan when I was in Bali. So if you guys are interested to know about my adventures there, I did a recap vlog on my trip there, so that if you are looking into traveling to Bali in the future, I hope that video is gonna prove useful and insightful to you, okay? All right. Now, usually when I'm testing out blushes like these, liquid brushes, cream blushes, I don't really use these types of foundations, these long wear types of foundations, because I sometimes observe that these types of formulas don't go well together. But let's just see if it's gonna work for us today. So if not, I'm going to shift foundations mid-video, okay? And I'm just gonna buff that out just to thin out everything. Okay, let me add a hint more here onto my cheeks and the side of my nose and in any part where there are redness. And again, the final buff to spread everything. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the color Moment first. So again, I'm gonna give it a little shake, and I'm just gonna drop a hint of it here on my palette. It's a very nice, very orangey color. I actually love it, the way it just, looks like here on my arm. So if you are someone who has very light, fair skin tones, I think this is going to be good for you, okay? All right, so with my Yachiyo brush here, I'm just going to swirl the brush onto the product, try to really blend it in. And it's now loaded here on the brush head. And I'm just gonna lightly tap it here onto my cheek. And I'm seeing that it's giving my skin a very nice flush of color. And again, it's working very well with my skin tone as well. It's blending quite nicely. It's looking to be quite natural on my skin, which is always understandable because this is how warm, peachy, golden blushes look like on my skin. So I do apologize if there's a sudden change in lighting. It's very cloudy today, so the sun is going to be darting in and out of the clouds. Okay, very nice color. I like how it looks like on my skin. Very nice and natural. Perfect for the no makeup look. So if you have lighter skin tones, I think this will just pop better on you than on me. But if you're someone who has medium skin tones like I do, this is perfect if you just want a hint of color on your cheeks. Okay, so I'm going to be adding the blush now here on my cheek with the foundation, so the warmth is popping out more, and you can really see the nice golden tones also coming out, which is actually very beautiful. It's very pretty. And with the brush that I used for my foundation earlier, let me blend out the edges. It's actually a very nice color, and I think if you just want to make it look like you're flushed a little bit, this is actually great. Very nice. Now let me just build the intensity a little bit. I'm getting more of the color and loading my finger with it. And I'm going to tap it here onto my skin. Okay, so it's actually very easy to build up the intensity. You can start with the sheer layer, and if you find that the color is not enough, you can always build on it. Now, the only thing that I am seeing right now is, I think because of the skincare ingredients in it, I'm seeing that it's a little bit greasy on my skin right now, because after all, I am someone who has also oily skin, and I also like to use some hydrating skincare products. So maybe they're not blending well together, but I kind of like the fact that I'm looking very nice and dewy, with this blush. But maybe if you have oily skin like I do, we might need to set this with some powder. Okay, let's try to build up on this side with the foundation. I can see some lifting going on, like with my fingertip. It's creating some patchiness on my cheek. So this product, I believe, is best to be applied using brushes. Okay, so let me just blend everything and make it look gorgeous. Lovely color though, I love it. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a hint of concealer in my under eye area. I am using my Laura Mercier Secret Camouflage in SE4, and I'm just gonna tap it here in my under eye area, here on the side of my nose, just so that we have a nice clean under eye. I'm just going to make the blush pop more on my face. Alright, so concealer is down, and this is how the color moment looks like on my face without foundation and concealer. And this is how it looks like on my face with foundation and concealer. What do you guys think? What's your reaction? It's actually a very, very light formula. It has nice color payoff for its formulation, which I was actually very surprised about. And I still believe though that this works better for someone who actually has very dry skin, because I can see the skincare ingredient sitting on top of my face, and it's actually giving my skin a very nice highlight. Okay, so out of curiosity, I just have some powder here. This is from Hourglass, and this is their Veil Translucent Setting Powder. It's a tester though, because I've never tried this powder before, and I think now is just the right time to play around with it. So I have my other Yachiyo brush here, and I'm just going to tap it on top of the blush and the foundation and the concealer, and it's working quite nicely together, but the color of the blush has actually diminished just a little bit. And I'm going to pick up more of the blush that's left here on my palette and just lightly pat it on top of the area where I added blush earlier, to try to see if it's gonna layer and create some patchiness. I mean, it kind of worked for me, but I'm not too sure if this blush is layerable on top of powder, because again, it just has a lot of skincare ingredients in it that just might affect the overall integrity of your blush. But again, this is still relatively new, and we really need to play around with this blush some more in order to understand its personality. Okay, so it's time to reset the makeup, and I have decided that I'm going to change foundation, so let me start again. So I'm just going to spray a little bit of this mist from Lisa Eldridge, pat it into my skin. Now I'm going to be using my Armani Luminous Silk foundation, and let's try to see if the change in the foundation type will actually make this blush work better. Okay, right, so let me apply a little bit of the Armani Luminous Silk foundation now all over this side of my face. Now, usually when I get a tan, I actually prefer to use the Estee Lauder Double Wear in Cashew, because it's just a little bit deeper than the tone of my Armani Luminous Silk. And also it has a certain redness into it that kind of works with my skin, especially when I have a tan. Now, the Luminous Silk foundation from Armani in number 6 also works for me, but it's just a little bit lighter for me at this time because of my tan. And let's try to see if this will work better with the Unreal blushes from Hourglass. Alright, and the next color that we have here is Vision, and I'm a little bit excited for this color because it has a very nice, pinky tone to it, And just looking at the color of the swatch here on my arm, it reminds me of the color Dolce Vita from NARS. Okay, so I've been doing this vlog now for a little bit, over let's say like 15-20 minutes, and I can see here on my arm when I touch the swatch that we created earlier, it's really not drying out, so it maintains its very dewy finish. So at least that's something that we should know about these brushes, okay? Alright, so I have here my Yachiyo brush, and I'm just loading it with the blush here. Okay, look at that. So I need to blend out the product here at the back of my hand. Perfect. And I'm gonna load it now here onto my cheek. Nice pop of color, nice hue, fantastic. Then again, and I'm using my fingers, I can see like it kind of lifts the pigment out. It still stands true that a brush is preferred to actually deliver the pigment of this blush product from Hourglass. Okay, so let's try it now here on the other side, and let's just pat it in. Okay, so you can actually see the true color now of the blush now that it's on top of foundation. It's really popping out very nicely. It's very beautiful. Then let me get the brush that I used earlier for the foundation. Let's blend out the edges, just tapping very lightly so it all blends out. And I kind of minimize the lifting of the product of the blush from my cheek. So I'm actually kind of getting to know the formula better now, and how to use it properly. And I like how this Unreal blush from Hourglass works with my Armani Luminous Silk foundation. So I think it's best to use this Unreal blush from Hourglass with luminous foundations, hydrating foundations, and not so much with long wear foundations, because again those the formulation of this blush and the formulation of long wear foundations, I think they don't work in synergy together. There's a certain kind of methodology I think that you can use this blush with, wherein you just have to really tap it into your skin very lightly. I'm not really pressing the brush into my cheek, and the main reason why is because I think it just kind of the formula of the blush gets lifted out from the cheek very easily, because it doesn't have a dry down. That's very similar to let's say the older version of the liquid blushes from NARS, which I absolutely love. And there's, I think, a fascination right now with blushes of this type of formula, wherein it's quite moisturizing and it has a more skin-like appeal, which I think is actually great, especially if you're just a regular consumer, because this will work for you on a daily basis. Very nice pop of color though, I like it. So now let's add some concealer in the under eye just to perfect everything. Okay, better. It looks very pretty and very nice. And then now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set my under eyes with some powder. Again, I'm using my tester here of the Veil translucent powder from Hourglass, and I'm just gonna lightly dab it here, and I'm going to totally avoid applying powder on the blush, because I don't want to dull down the moisture that I see that's reflecting off of the highest point of my cheekbones here. And maybe that's just how this blush actually works better. Very beautiful color, I like it. At first I thought it was very pretty dark on the packaging, but here on my cheeks it looks absolutely lovely. Fantastic. Okay, so this is how the color vision, did I get the name right? Yes. So this is how the color vision looks like on my face without makeup. And this is how it looks like on my face with makeup. Which do you prefer? Okay, so before we move on to the next color, I just want to try one more thing. So I have a few of the blush remaining here on my palette, and I have here my Rephr number 27 brush, and I'm just going to lightly apply the blush here onto my eyes just to see how it registers. Actually looks quite pretty as an eyeshadow, and it's actually blending out very well. It's actually quite lovely. So if you want a tonal look, this could do. But I think you should use this blush on your eyes after it has dried down a little bit on your skin or even on your palette, just so that the volatile ingredients of the blush have evaporated, and you don't get a lot of this very dewy look going on, because sometimes it can actually lead to degradation of the product and also creasing on your eye. I think I like the fact that you're actually also able to use it on your eyes. Right, it's lovely. I like that. I like this color. Alright, foundation has been reset, skin has been reset, and now it's time for us to try the final color. Imagine now this one is a very nice pop of a nice red orangey blush, and I believe that if you're someone who has very deep skin tones, this would be absolutely perfect for you. Okay, so I am going to be using just a tiny bit of this blush because I think this might just be too strong for my skin tone. So I loaded a little bit of the product here onto this Sonia G mini base brush, and I'm just going to tap it here on the highest points of my cheekbones. Ooh, I'm actually quite surprised on how well this brush actually delivered the color into my cheekbones. So again, I'm very specific on how I apply blush on myself, and I try not to apply blush well into the apples of my cheeks, because if I smile, my cheeks are very round and it's gonna create an under eye highlight here on my eye, which I actually don't like. Okay, that's actually quite nice. Sorry, I have a lash there. Okay, so I kind of like that. It's quite nice, giving me a nice flush of color, making me look like I got kissed by the sun. Nice shade there. Again, nice pigmentation, and I see still the luminosity of the product peeking through. Okay, let me just blend out the edges a little bit. It's actually a very nice color. I like that. Quite surprised. Okay, and let me apply that now here on the other side where I don't have foundation on. Okay, it's looking to be actually quite lovely. Still see some lifting going on. Using your fingers with this blush really creates patchiness, so you just have to be very careful with that. And let me get a clean brush head here, and let me just buff out the edges. Okay, that's perfect. Cleaner. Also, the edges are well blended. Nice flush of color going on. So that's one thing that I think we have to do when we are using this blush from Hourglass, the Unreal blush, is that if you want to blend out the edges, you don't use your fingers, but you have to use another brush for it, a clean brush head, so that you're actually able to create this very nice, well diffused, color on your cheeks. And I believe a dense brush like this is actually a much more better option in actually delivering the color into the cheeks, especially if you're very specific about the color application like I am, because I have a smaller real estate on my face, and also I need to apply the colors of blushes higher onto my cheekbones. And also I do really love a nice well blended blush on my cheek, and I actually spend a good chunk of my time really blending out the edges just to ensure that it looks very nice and well blended, and it's looking that it's the color is coming from within my skin, it's flushing out of my skin. And I'm just gonna apply a little bit of some powder around the edges to blend it, set. Okay, very interesting. It's not that I'm having trouble playing around with the formula of the Unreal blush, but it just has a very different type of personality that I would need to actually adjust the way that I apply makeup, because I believe the skincare ingredients of this is the one that's making it a little bit difficult to layer, because we're nearing towards the end of the vlog now, and I can see here on my arm that the blushes, hang on, have not set. See, they're still quite like, movable. You're still able to blend them out, so it doesn't really set like a traditional type of a liquid blush. The formulas of these, it kind of like reminds me of the Laura Mercier moisturizing blushes. I forgot the name of that, and also to a certain degree the Anastasia Beverly Hills liquid blushes that they released recently. But this one I think is just more hydrating, and it doesn't set the same way as those other blushes actually do set. Oh, and P.S. I forgot to set my face here with some powder. So I got a flat top kabuki type of a brush here. This is the Yoshiki by Koyudo brush here. And I'm just going to tap it on top of the blush here. Okay, so that kind of like worked with me today. I was very surprised by that because I think earlier I was using a very fluffy airy brush, and also the brush heads of these Yachiyo brushes are a little bit strong, that sometimes it can tend to move a product on the face. So I thought like maybe if I use like a flat top kabuki brush here, it might work in applying setting powder on the cheek, and it might just not disturb the product much, and it didn't. Okay, so at least now I do understand how I can actually make these blushes work with me. Yeah, so I believe that's our vlog for today. So I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you how I got to know these blushes from Hourglass, the Unreal Liquid Blush from Hourglass. And I do have to say though that there's a little bit of a learning curve that I have to go through in order to really play around with this, and I just need to play around with it some more off camera just to fully understand it. And but still I believe that this blush will work more with people who have dry skin, because this has a lot of very hydrating ingredients that will just really give your skin a very nice plump look. And if you're someone who has oily skin like I do, maybe you should try something else. I'm just being truthful here, okay? Alright, so that's it. So if you guys have any more questions how I got to know these blushes from Hourglass, please let me know down in the comments box and let's have a conversation about it, alright? So I'm gonna let you guys go now. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye.